All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. So, is David Lee Roth toast? Holy crap, Batman and probably Robin too on this one. This is a Batman and Robin version of the Holy crap, Batman. All right, so here's the scoop. David Lee Roth puts his foot in his mouth and ends his career, possibly. I mean, his career was already mostly over, but this is just really dumb if what happened here is true, which I think it is because it's being reported in the Van Halen chat rooms and also as part of the Van Halen news desk website. So here goes. A controversial article called Inside a Superfan's Secret Friendship with Eddie Van Halen, in which a former journalist opened up about his supposed clandestine 5-year correspondence with the late rock icon. Now, you can kind of hear the lack of confidence in this by the way they word things: supposed, clandestine, controversial. This could never happen. You know, I could go on about people telling me, well, you didn't talk to so-and-so. Who are you? Why would they talk to you? I wonder that myself a lot, but sometimes they do. In fact, there's somebody kind of close to the Van Halen situation who I talk to every so often, just putting it out there. And I will have to reach out to this person and maybe they have a unique perspective on the beans that are spilled here, because this is crazy and very plausible. So let me continue. In the article, Blair Fisher claims that the legendary Van Halen guitarist took the opportunity in one email to eviscerate David Lee Roth over the fact that Van Halen couldn't agree on a way to make new music. Okay, so that kind of allegation is specific to the business. Van Halen needs to make new music. It was 2007. We got back together again. Let's make an album, right? Well, it took 5 years. And apparently because of all the rehashed demos and also because Dave has maybe not the greatest work ethic in the world and tends to be unreliable. And we've been hearing this over and over, right? Hey, let's just quit because, I was canceled a couple of times. So the fans who bought tickets, let's just not do any shows to make up for those shows. Let's just retire, right? And so I'm in the midst of my first retirement. Dave is not looking like a really cool guy right now. And yes, I understand, the Roth era will always be the favorite of Van Halen fans, although Sammy Hagar every day of the week is starting to look way better. In fact, if they're going to do this Van Halen tribute thing, it should be Sammy instead. I know that sounds like a chicken foot reunion with Alex playing drums, bring in Chad Smith. I mean, I don't know. I would rather see that because I think it would be more authentic and you wouldn't get all the BS that you're getting with David Lee Roth right now. So this gets worse, okay? This gets way worse. So again, Eddie says it took way too long for a different kind of truth. He also blamed Roth for having nothing but a live record to show for 3 years of downtime. That was that Tokyo Dome live in concert thing. And Eddie went on to say that Roth only wants to be on stage doing his vaudeville shtick. Okay, again, very plausible because all Dave does is vaudeville shtick. He said publicly that he loves that whole vaudevillian era. So why is this hard to believe? Now, it gets much worse. Eddie says that Roth is out of his mind and not at all interested in rock and roll. Eddie then said Roth only likes dance music. Okay, full stop here because Ed has done public interviews where he said, I don't understand. He's listening to dance music. I don't really listen to dance music. I don't really relate to this guy. I'm not really his friend. I'm pretty sure when A Different Kind of Truth came out, they had this interview where Eddie said all this stuff and people were just like, oh, well, that's interesting, Ed. Well, back to you, Bob. It was kind of like no big deal, and you could tell that he really wanted a friendship with Roth and he really wanted Roth to kind of settle down. But Roth, based on what is being said here, this validates the fact that Roth was kind of like doing his own thing off on his own, hanging out with the DJ down in Miami, doing the EDM stuff, which people were scratching their head and going, a remix of Jump? What was wrong with Jump the way it was, By the way, a synth riff that Eddie Van Halen composed, right? And nobody wanted it. The producer didn't want it. Ted Templeman said didn't sound like Van Halen. He was kind of right, but so just such a great song. Even it's one of those songs that I don't mind, believe it or not, even though it's overplayed. But again, Roth took it to the extreme. So this is where it gets kind of interesting that Roth is out of his mind, not interested in rock and roll. Roth only likes dance music and hates bands like AC/DC, claiming that Roth calls the band's fans culturally illiterate. Okay, that's quite a big charge, right? To call a band's fans culturally illiterate. And you've just insulted all of the blue collar fans that love AC/DC and just the world in general. Who doesn't like AC/DC? Okay, pretty much everybody likes them. I mean, the hardcore fans, I'm sure, are a little bit more lunch pail and a little bit more down and dirty than, your casual fans, but pretty much everybody loves AC/DC, right? So I don't know if this is true. Roth wasn't too sharp here. And by the way, a lot of AC/DC fans like Van Halen, right? So Van Halen had a blue collar appeal as well. I think more blue collar when Sammy joined, because Sammy was all serious and his lyrics weren't all just, going off into the stratosphere. I mean, he was writing love songs and, as Dave would tell you, ain't talking about love, almost like in Rebellion, going to talk about something different and just throw a spin on it. I'm not saying Roth wasn't interesting lyrically. He really was. But I think Sammy was more grounded, maybe a little bit more simple-minded and not so scatterbrained. Because, you could say something is culturally illiterate, but scatterbrain isn't a great alternative to culturally illiterate. Maybe you like the culture that you like. It's called freedom of association. You don't have to like all the weird stuff. So it's going to get worse, folks, before it gets better here. A representative for Van Halen said the band and Eddie's family declined to comment on the article, as did a representative for Eddie's son, Wolfgang, who replaced vocalist Michael Anthony for the recording of A Different Kind of Truth. However, here is the kicker that might just really screw David Lee Roth for the rest of his natural life. Roth decided to break his silence on the matter, oh dear, issuing a brief statement to the Van Halen News Desk website. He wrote, number one, I've always loved AC/DC. Number two, I've never said that anyone's audience was culturally illiterate. I said that Ed was culturally illiterate. He added, God bless our troops. What? Okay, did you hear the needle just fly right off the record? Went right off. So he never said that AC/DC's audience was culturally illiterate. He said that Eddie Van Halen, the late, great Eddie Van Halen, was culturally illiterate. I know I said it earlier, but holy crap, Batman and Robin, what are you doing? Even if this was true, and it's only true based on Dave's perception of Ed, right? and everybody else for that matter. It doesn't really matter what I think of Eddie Van Halen's cultural literacy. Does he know the great works of art? Does he understand culture? Who cares? He was a great freaking guitarist. Some believe the best ever. So that's pretty culturally relevant on its own, Dave. I mean, he doesn't have to say a word. He can just play music and it speaks louder than anything he could ever think or say. What the heck are you doing, buddy? So yeah, I told you it was going to get worse. And he just called somebody who's dead, who's no longer here, who still hasn't had a proper tribute. And I think we figured that out here. I think we know why there hasn't been a tribute to Eddie Van Halen. And now there really can't be one with David Lee Roth. There just can't be one. And maybe Roth knows this and he figured he'd just shoot his mouth off and say something ridiculous and just end all the speculation. Let Sammy do it, please. Let Sammy do the tribute. Call Gary Cherone, call Mitch Malloy, whoever you need to call. You can do the tribute without Dave. Okay, Dave does not deserve to be a part of this organization anymore. And Alex, just, call him up and say, you're done. We're not doing anything. Send his people a memo and say it's over with. Now, supposedly this is all alleged, but the fact that he went to the Van Halen news site to clarify, it shows that this reporter, this journalist, was probably communicating with Eddie Van Halen, because it struck such a nerve that Roth was willing to jettison his relationship with the fans, not only AC/DC fans, but Van Halen fans. What a moron. I don't use the word moron too much. I've called a few people morons when I was talking about how they wanted to lock me down and tell me what to do and take away my privacy and my ability to make my own decisions, right? I did. I called people morons. And there are a couple of publications that mention that I use the word moron. I don't like to use that word, but I just did, because this is moronic, okay? This is distasteful, foolish, and certainly could be the end of David Lee Roth as we used to know him. And that's fine with me. Just bring in Sammy. Look, Dave was great years ago with Van Halen. He hasn't been so great for quite a few years now. And maybe he's getting bitter. Maybe he's just shooting his mouth off because that's what he does. Maybe he wanted to generate an enormous amount of controversy so people will talk about him like I'm doing now. In this case, I'm going to say that the negative publicity, and I typically say any publicity is good publicity, but in this particular instance, I'm going to say that this went too far. And there's going to be a boomerang effect on Roth, and he should have known better. He really should. This was very distasteful and unfair. And even if it was true, even if he thought that Ed was culturally illiterate, compared to what? Compared to you, Mr. Stream of Consciousness, saying all these words, David Lee Roth can make a great word salad, right? But who do you serve it to? Nobody understands like what's in the word salad. After he talks, you're like, what did he just say? So if that's culturally literate, hard pass from yours truly and a whole bunch of other old-time Van Halen fans. It's a shame that this happened, but here we are. So before I go, I was going to promote this at the beginning, but I was trying to keep my train of thought because this stuff is just crazy. This band I've been talking about, King of the World. Okay, this is new music from a band you probably haven't heard of before. King of the World, the album is called Royal 10. You'll have to order it from Jeff Bezos, I think, in order to get it within the next couple of months, because this band is from Denmark. They've been around for a number of years, and they're really terrific. Go listen to it. Blues-oriented rock and roll, and these guys can play and sing and write, and they do covers and they do originals, and they're just a great band. So anyway, folks, that's the video. I'm kind of blown away by this, this revelation about Ed and him being culturally illiterate. we really do at this point need a tribute to Eddie Van Halen without David Lee Roth. And we should do it soon. They should organize it right away. All right, people. That's it. Done. In the can. See you soon.